The next great battlefield won't be on land, or at sea, or even in the air. The next war, the one that could define the 21st century, will be fought above us, in space. Think about your daily life. Your phone, your internet connection, the GPS that guides you home, even the global financial system. All of it depends on a fragile network of satellites orbiting our planet. And what about our armies? Their ability to navigate, communicate, and see the enemy all relies on those same satellites. If they are destroyed, modern civilization as we know it could grind to a halt. This is the story of space warfare, and how the next global conflict might begin silently, hundreds of kilometers above our heads. For decades, we've looked up at space as a final frontier of peace and exploration. But that era is over. Today, space is the ultimate military high ground. Every modern military force on Earth is critically dependent on its assets in orbit. Satellites provide precision navigation for troops, ships, and aircraft. They are the backbone of global military communications, allowing a commander in one hemisphere to control a drone in another. They operate the early warning systems that would detect an incoming nuclear missile attack. And of course, they are our unblinking eyes in the sky, spying on adversaries and tracking their movements. Without satellites, a modern army is rendered blind, deaf, and lost. Space is no longer just a place for science. It has become the most critical strategic domain on the planet. The idea of weaponizing space isn't new. It's a dark legacy of the Cold War. As the United States and the Soviet Union raced to the moon, they were also secretly developing weapons to control the space around Earth. Both sides experimented with anti-satellite weapons, or ASAT. These were essentially missiles, launched from the ground or from high-altitude jets, designed with one purpose: to seek out and destroy an enemy's object in orbit. The technology was terrifying. A successful strike could not only eliminate a crucial satellite but also create a cloud of high-velocity debris, a deadly minefield that could threaten every other satellite in that orbit for decades. For years, these programs remained in the shadows, a hidden dimension of the Cold War that, thankfully, never escalated. But the technology was never forgotten. The 21st century brought these hidden dangers back into the light. In 2007, the world watched as China deliberately destroyed one of its own aging weather satellites with a ground-based missile. The test was a shocking demonstration of capability. It created a massive debris field, with thousands of pieces of space junk that still threaten satellites today. It was a clear signal. The new space race had begun, and this time, it was a military one. Soon after, Russia began testing its own advanced anti-satellite systems, including so-called kamikaze satellites designed to maneuver close to and disable other spacecraft. The United States, recognizing this new reality, responded in 2019 by creating the first new branch of its military in over 70 years, the U.S. Space Force. The message was unmistakable. Space had officially been declared a warfighting domain. So, how would a war in space actually be fought? It probably wouldn't look like the explosive dogfights you see in movies. It would likely start silently and invisibly. The first shots of a future conflict might be fired not on a battlefield, but in orbit. An attacker could use a range of weapons. High-powered lasers on the ground could blind a satellite's sensors. Cyber attacks could hijack its controls, or a direct ascent missile could simply obliterate it. The effects on Earth would be immediate and catastrophic. GPS signals would vanish, paralyzing transportation and logistics. Internet and communication networks would go dark. Financial markets would crash. Missile warning systems would fail, leaving nations vulnerable to a surprise attack. An entire country's military and civilian infrastructure could be crippled without a single boot on the ground. Is there any way to prevent this future? Can space be protected? There are international treaties, like the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, that ban placing weapons of mass destruction in orbit. But these agreements were written for a different era. Technology has outpaced diplomacy. Today, the lines are blurred. A satellite designed for repairing other satellites could easily be used as a weapon. A ground-based laser for tracking space debris could be turned up to blind an enemy spy satellite. Every major superpower is now developing and deploying these dual-use technologies, preparing for a conflict they all say they don't want. But as the new space race accelerates, the path to war in orbit becomes clearer. And once it begins, a conflict that starts in the silence of space could be impossible to stop. The next war may not begin with the sound of trumpets or the roar of jets. It might start with a quiet flicker on a screen, signaling that a satellite, and the world beneath it, has gone dark. To understand the conflicts that will shape our future, you need to look up. Subscribe to our channel to discover more about the unseen battlefields of the modern world. Thanks for watching.